heard baby screaming and just wanted to rip their own ears off? Well, if you don't have kids of your own, then you probably had the kid screaming in the restaurant, on an airplane, or maybe a sibling that just wouldn't go to sleep. I've been doing this for about 20 years, babysitting my siblings, cousins, friends' kids, and now my own 7-month-old. So today I'm going to be going over different reasons that babies cry, because babies really aren't that complicated. You just have to know what it is that they're crying about. And there are different reasons for different stages, but today I'll be going over what happens at newborn, 3 month, and 6 months. When the baby's first born, all they have is a few basic sensations: hunger, sleepiness, temperature, discomfort, like from a dirty diaper, and of course pain, but let's try to avoid that one if we can. And each baby has a different cry for every occasion, and somehow parents are able to discern one cry from another. I'd always heard about this, but even after having my own daughter, I have no idea how I know. But one of the big things is temperature, though. At this point, they're basically cold-blooded. They don't have the layer of fat that we have. Well, they do, but not nearly as thick. Nor do they have their shiver reflex or sweat glands, which, of course, they still have, but they haven't developed yet. And Seattle Children's Hospital advises that you dress them a little more warmly than you do yourself, like adding an extra layer, even in the summer. And they also said that there are several other reasons that I forgot to mention, such as overfeeding, caffeine, so breastfeeding mothers should definitely avoid that. And the worst one, colic. This one is a parent's worst nightmare. In an otherwise healthy and happy baby, it's a period, sometimes for hours at a time, of just plain screaming. And you don't know why, the baby probably doesn't know why, but luckily that's temporary and usually relieves itself in about 3 or 4 months, right into stage 2. That is when they hit about 3 months. Usually by this point they've had better bladder control than they used to have, and their muscles are developing enough that they're beginning to squirm. They can't flip over on their stomach yet, not usually, or move around, but when you're holding them, they're able to find their comfort position. And when they're not in it, they will be mad. And at this point they are still cold-blooded, basically. So keeping them warm is always a good idea. But they have usually started to grab things like hair and piercings. Thankfully, I only have the former. My poor ex has snake bites. That hurt. And Dr. Nia Hurd-Garris at Northwestern University wrote an article for the New York Times in 2019 that also says that babies will have new ways of communicating besides crying by this point. And now we go into the 6-month stage. At this point, the babies are now warm-blooded, since their shiver reflex and their sweat gland have kicked in. Usually when a baby falls asleep, or at least in my family, they will sweat buckets. But now that they've gotten a little more body control, now comes the weird part, when they start crying because they're bored. In my daughter's case, when she has an activity center like this, it's a little bit like a walker, but as you can see, it can't move around the room. So now that she has a walker, and whenever I try to put her in that, she doesn't like it very much. She'll try and scoot her little feet along the bottom, trying to make it move. And whenever she's sitting on the couch, when she wants to be stretching her legs, that's one big one. And Dr. Aaron E. Carroll, the pediatrics professor at Indiana University, also points out that babies will begin to know strangers at this point. They'll be able to tell the difference between someone they know and someone they don't. And depending on how social the baby is, they may get really upset when someone they don't know tries to hold them. But some kids aren't social. And one big thing that they don't like is stagnating. They want to advance, they want to develop more skills, because they're trying to learn all the time. So today I'm going to go over the different reasons that babies cry at different ages. We've already covered newborn, 3 months, and 6 months. And now whenever you hear a baby crying, now you'll have some idea of why, and maybe be able to give them a tip. Thank you and good night.